Greetings and hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Drew. You're you. And this is David, aka Figboot, but he's not on pens today. It is Figboot and Drew on movies today. And interestingly enough, I spoke with David years ago, and I asked him where he came up with his name for his channel. And, he told me the Figboot story. We won't get into that. It's a character. But he always said to me he wanted to do it on pens because he always thought, you know what, I might be Figboot on something else. I might be Figboot on movies or games or something like that. And so I'm actually really thrilled, David, that we are on movies today. So it's like, I feel like it's a long time coming. I'm really excited to do this with you.
Yeah, movies have always been a passion of mine, and film. Back in high school, I wanted to be a television director. I wanted to direct live TV and sporting events and news and things like that. And then I went to study film for a while in college, and I wanted to be a director. And so I was into a lot of bougie films and a lot of kind of film school kind of films. And so I have a lot of background in that. And so films has always been a big passion of mine, not just entertainment, but films, not movies, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it totally does. And this is one of two parts, kind of like an A side and B side video combination that we've done. I listed my 5 movies that I think more people should see that is now available on David's Figboot on Pens channel. And then now we're going to cover David's 5 films that he thinks more people should see. My films were definitely less film schooly than I believe his will be. I did not include Cabinet of Dr. Caligari or Dial M for Murder or any of those. When I was in my little crappy film school that is now a crumbling mess that doesn't exist anymore, I still could not get into there. My films on my list were rather I don't know, a little bit more mainstream than David's will be, but you'll hear them soon. I got a little sneak peek of them, so they're interesting. So without
I will say
ado,
that,
David,
I will say this is like version 2.0, because my first version was a little bit more film schooly, and some of the films weren't necessarily. I figured that the more and more I explained them, the more it did not make it sound like you wanted to watch them, and so that was kind of contrary to what I felt that this theme of this should be. We wanted people to watch it, not convincing people that you were going to have to endure a 4.5 hour long movie that maybe I only wanted you to watch because I need someone to talk with about it, because because you want someone to commiserate with about how good this movie is. But we won't get into the things like that. I have things that are much more accessible on this list.
Thank you for your mercy, sir. I appreciate that. But yes, I would love to hear what your number 1 or number 5, they're in no particular order, but throw your first movie at us that you think more people should see.
Well, I am a big fan of kaiju movies. We'll call them, that's kind of monster movies, for lack of a better, a more Americanized term. And I was trying to think of what kaiju movie I really wanted to add. I thought of, there's a very good South Korean movie called The Host, which was an excellent Bong Joon-ho film, who went on to do Parasite and other items. The Host is amazing. But the one that I landed on was somewhat recent, which is Godzilla Minus One. Godzilla Minus One is a film that had a lot of press about it in the U.S. Basically, when you tell people in the U.S. they can't get something, you almost want to watch it that much more. It's always like, okay, I was able to see this movie because I went through all of these hoops in order to get it. And that it is a kaiju movie that came out a couple of years ago. And for the longest time, it was only available in Japan. The first time I saw it, I actually had to set my VPN to Japanese Amazon in order to think I was in Japan so I could actually watch the film. But
oh, wow.
It is a... I don't want to just lump this in with all other Godzilla movies. It is a Godzilla movie. Godzilla does show up and does do Godzilla things, but it is first and foremost a movie about people. It is a movie about the Japanese people post World War II and how they recover and how they're getting along with their life. Is it a perfect film? No, but it delves more into the people, focusing on a kamikaze pilot, a failed kamikaze pilot, as those two words would indicate. If he was a successful kamikaze pilot, it wouldn't be much of a film. With him kind of wrestling with a lot of, in essence, post-traumatic stress and almost like survivor's guilt. And also, all of a sudden, Godzilla shows up as well. And so it was done very well. The special effects are done very well. And if anything, the story is the star of that particular film, because it does tell a good story and you really care about these people. They're not just, they're not just side characters in a Godzilla film. Godzilla is the side character in this film, even though he does, like I say, do many Godzilla things. But I felt it was an intelligent film. Everyone did intelligent things. It looked fantastic. I think it was only shot for something like $20 million. And it looks better than...
It won an Academy Award.
Yeah, it looks better than any $200 million film Hollywood made. And you looked at it going, okay, why can't we make films like that? But why can't Hollywood make films like this that look this fantastic, have this great story, and then look so great with the effects as well? So they eventually actually just recently released Godzilla Minus One Minus C, which is the black and white version. And they didn't just, they revamped the whole film. They didn't just like turn the color off and shoot it out and just make another copy. They remastered it all, and it kind of has more of a vintage look and feel, kind of like some of the original Godzilla movies. But I would say don't necessarily feel like you have to watch that one first. The color one is fantastic and plays very well. But Godzilla Minus One is a high recommendation for me, and one that maybe not a lot of people here in the U.S. saw because they felt it was like just another Godzilla movie or just another kaiju movie.
Yeah, it is fantastic. Can we talk about the little girl, though? That little girl,
the cutest little girl.
She was a phenomenal actress. I thought there was some parts where I'm like, all right, this movie has some really crazy good visual effects. Like, is she not real? Because she was acting so well. Her emotions were so believable. I didn't think she was real. Like, I thought, is this a CG little girl I'm looking at? Because I could not, my brain could not
with minimal dialogue.
That.
With minimal dialogue, we're talking a toddler that had very few lines, but her lines were literally everything came out of her mouth was very meaningful and literally just crushed your heart in a few things. A few moments just literally touched you so much. And that little girl stole every scene that she was in, and she hardly had any words to say at all.
Unbelievable. Yeah, no, that movie was fantastic. And even if you're not a Godzilla fan, I would absolutely agree with him. Give this one a shot, because it's a kind of like Rogue One is it's a Star Wars movie, but there's no lightsabers really. There's no, it just happens to be in the Star Wars universe. I would say that this is kind of like that, where it's probably the best Godzilla movie because it is in the Godzilla universe, but it's just like a coincidence. It's about a person, but that person just happens to be in the Godzilla universe. But
yes,
take it like that.
So next film is a little bit more, we'll say a little bit less obtainable for people. In this modern age, I really think that silent films are underrated. That they are not.
This is a silent film?
Kind of. We'll say it's kind of a silent film, and I'll explain in a second. But if you go back, a lot of Buster Keaton films, Steamboat Bill Jr., Sherlock Jr., incredible films. A lot of the Chaplin films like City Lights and The Great Dictator. Even like when they list some of the best films of all time, like Passion of Joan of Arc and even Sunrise come up. Or there's a movie called Wings, which was the picture that won the very first Oscar for Best Film, which was very well done as well. So I didn't go with any of the older silent movies, but what I did do is go with a modern take on a silent film, which was a film that came out, I think, last year, and that film is called Hundreds of Beavers. It is, we'll say, essentially a silent film. It has music. It has very minimal lines and vocalizations of this character. And you have a look on your face like you looked up the poster for Hundreds of Beavers. So
that is accurate, my friend.
Okay, so
I'm looking at screenshots actually.
Yes. So in the grand scheme of things,
I have questions.
Okay, it is a very low budget movie, as you could see. It is about a hunter who is out in the wilderness, and let's just say he is having to learn how to survive on the land, and that. He meets up with a lot of animals, whether it is rabbits or raccoons or beavers, and that all of the animals that he runs into are basically people in rabbit suits. It is just literally like you went down to the costume store and bought a rabbit costume or a beaver costume, or there's some of the animals are puppets as well. So the animals are either people in costumes or puppets. And that it is very much a slapstick movie. And lots of pratfalls. It is very funny. It has a 97% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. And if you look at the reviews, it's just everyone raves about Hundreds of Beavers. It is something that starts off a little bit slow. I know you look bewildered right now. And
I'm looking at one in a Sherlock Holmes like deerstalker hat.
Yeah. That's the lead character, because that was the beaver that he and so then he had to make an outfit out of the beaver that he did away with, and that's the hat. That's his hat that he made out of it.
No, he's wearing like a Sherlock Holmes outfit with like a pipe and a little cape, and he's standing next to one with a mustache that's supposed to be like Watson?
Those are the beavers. So yeah, those are a couple of beavers. Those are the like the police investigators. They're investigating the crimes that this hunter is doing against the beaver community. And they are kind of side characters and are it's like a Holmes and Watson that are investigating the crimes that this human is committing against the beaver community.
Do they talk?
No, the beavers do not talk. The man does. Mainly it's like grunts and yells or screams, but I'm trying to think. There is very, very little dialogue in the entire movie. So everything is visual. It's on Amazon. Amazon Plus or Prime.
Why do you think it enjoys a 97% fresh rating? If you had to guess, why is it good?
It does it. I will say that the movie does crescendo and get better as it goes on. As it gets sillier and sillier, that you buy into it more. I have another movie later on in the list that requires you to buy into it a little bit. And once you have done that, once you have bought into it and you've kind of gotten past that every animal is just a person walking around in an animal suit, which sounds extremely silly, but when you're watching the film, you buy into it and you understand it. And you're like, oh, that's just all the beavers, or that's the raccoon, or that's the bunny rabbit, and that you enjoy his journey into becoming a kind of more of a hardened mountain man, and understand that. And by the end, that there's some consequences, and you're rooting for him at the end, it's. Like I had mentioned before, it's very, very much a slapstick type of comedy that it's amazing to see what people were able to do. It almost looks like you're watching a cartoon. It's like a cartoon came to life. That's a good explanation of what this film feels like.
It's very interesting. I mean, I guess the original Planet of the Apes anthology was just a bunch of people in fuzzy ape costumes, so. And those worked to a certain extent.
All
right.
We will have to have another
entire
episode about the Planet of the Apes films, which I could talk about at length for quite some time.
Yeah, me too. Like Escape from.
Well, it depends on the fourth one, the Escape with the Carlos Montalban or whatever his name, or Ricardo Montalban, and going to San Francisco.
Yep, that was the one that basically just. Yes.
We're going to San Francisco and have we'll say apes running around San Francisco, or chimps.
Yep.
I don't think the apes make it there. The chimps make it to San Francisco.
Yeah.
So yes, the rich Corinthian leather.
Chimps are apes.
Yes, you are correct. You are correct.
The gorillas. I think you meant to say gorillas.
Yes, the gorillas the orangutans don't make it there.
The gorillas were heavily in conquest of the Planet of the Apes.
Yes. That fourth and fifth one really went downhill. And then there was a TV show as well. Maybe you weren't a little too young for the TV show. The TV show
I was a little too young for that one.
That was kind of like right around like the time of like Chips and stuff like that. That was maybe I'm dating myself. $6 Million Man, right around that time.
I'm sure the quality of the costumes really went up for the TV show, didn't it?
Yeah. It went up considerably with that budget.
Mm-hmm.
But
certainly.
In the grand scheme of things, I think if you watch hundreds of Beavers, that by the end you will understand why it is something that's worthwhile, and it will bring a smile to your face.
Okay, I mean, I've been smiling this whole time looking at these screenshots, so I guess it's achieving that already.
Okay.
I'll give it a shot. I'm intrigued.
Film number 3.
What's your next one?
I thought I'd go for something a little bit more nostalgic. Movies that kind of took place when I was growing up and really kind of capture that feeling of the 1970s and 80s. Originally I was looking at films like Adventureland or even Better Off Dead. But the one that I landed on was, wasn't that long ago, and it's just a really, really sweet movie called Sing Street. It is based in Ireland. I'm not sure if it's an Irish production. I would assume so, but it's based in Ireland, and it is about these high school boys who want to start a band. Or basically one main boy who wants to start a band, and he convinces his friends to do so. And it's, it's about the foibles of trying to start a band. It's like, okay, I know Jimmy down the street owns a guitar, and I know someone else might be able to play the drums, and maybe they're good at it, maybe they're not. It's like kludging together what you can, and it's that really influential time in your life when you watch a band and then all of a sudden you want to start dressing like them or doing your like makeup like them, and you get to see this young man on his creative journey with the band that he's essentially using because he wants to date this girl in the neighborhood, and he's doing everything like, hey, if I become successful with this band, I can ask the girl to come be in our video with us, or everything is kind of trying to go towards this girl that's a little bit older than he is. But it's kind of a very quaint tale, and one of those tales, almost remember like Billy Elliot was with, kind of that type of wholesome tale to where you really felt good for the kid, but he went basically along a journey in order to get to where he needs to go. It has some great original music as well as some nostalgic music in it. There are a number of original songs that they create that I'd say are true to the times. And it's just a really fun and nostalgic look at that point in time. So it's one that I would highly recommend.
Nice. All right. So props for using the word foibles. I gave you, you can cross that off your daily vocabulary list today. Well done. And then fun fact, turning things toward myself, talking about, seeing a singer and wanting to look like them. Once upon a time, David, I took a photo of John Bon Jovi into a hair cuttery or a Regis hair salon or something in the mall. And this was like post 2000 Bon Jovi. This was like Crush Bon Jovi with his like, chin length feathered.
Oh yeah,
hair.
the full on mane.
Yes. I took that in. I was like, can you get me this, please? Luckily, there is no photographic evidence of that period of my life. So, but I definitely did do that.
It might not seem like it now, but there was honestly a point in my life I resembled a celebrity, and to the point where I would go out in public and no one would say, "Are you this person?" They would say, "Do you know you look like this person?" And I would go to a store or a waitress or whatever, and dozens of people said, "Do you look?" Strangers would say, "Do you know you look like this?" And there was a point in my life I looked exactly like Anthony Edwards when he was on ER.
That is so funny.
When he was on ER, and ER was the number one
Yeah.
show, that I very much looked just like Anthony Edwards, and
It's very funny.
so go ahead.
Coincidentally, the last time I recorded something for my channel, my wife and I were talking about how I always tease her because one time she had a romantic dream about Dr. Green from ER. And I've always teased her about that. I was like, not even Goose, man, with the sweet stash. Like, you're going with Dr. Green. I thought that was so funny. But like, literally, that came up the last thing I recorded sitting right here. And now all of a sudden, Dr. Green from ER comes back again. Like, what are the odds of that? That is so funny.
And then what I would get is people would come up and they'd kind of go, "Oh, do you know who you kind of," and they'd be like, "Oh, that guy from Revenge of the Nerds." And I'd be like, "Okay, he was in Top Gun too. You know that? You could have said the guy from Top Gun. No, you said the guy from Revenge of the Nerds.
Right, come on.
You could have said the guy from Top Gun or the guy from ER, but you said the guy from, Revenge of the Nerds." I'm like, okay, come on, give me at least a little bit of credit. But yeah, there was a point in time where I had many, like I said, it wasn't just like one random person, enough to where you're like, okay, I guess I do kind of look like that. But I don't think I resemble him now, but there was a time when we were very similar. Okay.
Fantastic.
Number 4. I am a big fan of documentaries. There is some of my favorite documentaries are about movies. We mentioned them in the other version, Burden of Dreams, which is all about, Hearts of Darkness, which is all about the making of Apocalypse Now. And then there's another one called Burden of Dreams, which is about the making of one of my favorite films, Fitzcarraldo, which is a Werner Herzog film, which is just incredible. There is other documentaries that really provide like in-depth looks at interesting characters like Crumb or American Movie. But the one I went for was one that delved into some culinary themes, and that would be Jiro Dreams of Sushi. Jiro, to be honest, I don't know his last name, but he owns a sushi shop. And you know what? This movie was a while back, so it wouldn't surprise me if Jiro, unfortunately, is no longer with us. But he owned a sushi store in a subway station in Japan. So imagine, like a New York subway station, and they have like a little restaurant in there, and that he owned this restaurant, and it earned 3 Michelin stars. And it was a small restaurant that could only seat 8 people at a time. Dinner was like $400 a pop, $400 a person, and it was a sushi restaurant. But the main thing about this film that is so intriguing, it kind of delves into the question, what does it take to be the best in the world at what you do? And what do you need to go through in order to achieve perfection in your life and achieve perfection in what you do? He would have apprentices that would come in and work for him. And that was if he accepted you as an apprentice, then after a few years, you could go off and start a successful restaurant of your own because you studied under this gentleman for a while. But there was one gentleman who every day it was his job to come in and make this like egg cake, this kind of yellowy kind of egg cake. And he would come in every day and go to make it. And every day it just wasn't good enough because it wasn't perfect. And this guy for weeks and weeks and weeks would come in and make this stuff every day, and it would just get rejected because it wasn't good enough. But then there was that one day it was good enough. And that it was almost, I can't remember if you literally started crying, but you felt for this guy because he had been working so hard and he had finally achieved that perfection, which was the level that was expected at this restaurant. And so it's an interesting story about this gentleman who owns this restaurant. It's an interesting story. I'm not a big sushi fan, but I will say it makes sushi looks very appetizing. It's the kind where literally the sushi, I would say artist, the chef just literally puts a bunch of rice in his hand and everything kind of forms in their own hand, puts the thing on top and then literally just like gives you one piece at a time, and you are given one piece, you eat that one piece, and then he makes another one for you. And that, I guess, the way that the sushi progresses in the meal is almost like a symphony, to where there is a culinary path that takes place. And it's very interesting. So even though I'm not a huge fish fan and I'm not a huge sushi fan, you're like, okay, if I'm ever going to like it, I'm going to like this stuff because this looks like the best stuff ever made. But it's an excellent movie about food, but then, like I mentioned up top, it's just a really good film about what it takes to be the best at something, and that you can kind of translate to anything else in your life.
That's really cool. And I've got some good news for you, David. I just checked, and he is still alive, currently 99 years old.
Oh, amazing. I knew he was up there. He was older in the film, and his son had, I think his son took over the restaurant. And
it said that he was 85 at the time of filming in 2011.
Oh, okay. And so I'm glad that he is still with us. But his son was also a very good chef. And I think they were getting reassessed for the Michelin stars, and that was part of the film as well, as far as, could they get their Michelin star or obtain it with the son as opposed to Jiro? Was the son as good as the dad in his food preparation? And I won't ruin the film for you, but it turned out very nicely. But I'm glad to hear that Jiro is still with us at the age of 99.
All right, number 5. What we got?
Okay, for number 5, I have a modern film. This is a very modern film. It just came out a couple of months ago, and it tanked at the box office. It did terrible. It probably cost over $100 million and brought back only like 20. It just really crashed. But everyone that has watched it, I feel, has felt fantastic about it, and I really feel that it's an underrated film. And that would be the Robbie Williams biopic, Better Man. Now,
oh, right.
Now, when you see the trailer for this film, first of all, I understand why it bombed. First of all, especially in the United States, Robbie Williams, who is a British pop singer, was in a boy band and then went on to solo success, is not a huge name in the United States market and not really cracked into this. So as far as a celebrity name, he's not as well known. And then you watch the trailer for this film. And what they have done is they made the artistic choice to represent him as a chimpanzee, like a human version of a chimp. Now, I will say it really annoys me because, like, the original biopic it was based on was called Monkey Man, and a lot of the advertising and a lot of promo for this film talk about monkey. It's not, there's a difference between a monkey and a chimp. And so that just kind of annoys me, just from a linguistic standpoint, that they keep saying monkey when he's not a monkey, he's a chimp. But enough, David on language. But, and I will say that when you watch the trailer, you're like, okay, what is this? Because all of a sudden it's just kind of a chimp running around and singing. You forget it after like 2 seconds. Literally, no one even mentions it or refers to it. And it actually plays a little bit better because, like, when he's younger, what are you going to do? Get an actor that looks like him? When it's a kid, is it going to have to look like him? Are you going to get him to play himself and just do the facial de-aging or something like that? No, it's almost like this is the character that represents him, and he voices the character for the most part. And that you just accept right away that is the character of the movie. And, in the trailer, they talk about how, I felt a little less evolved, but, but it ends up playing very well because you see how he, in some ways felt like he was just like that monkey, just banging on the cymbals up there as he was being presented to everyone. I'm not a huge fan of the music, but I will say the music in it was fantastic. The director is the same gentleman that did The Greatest Showman, which was very well received a couple of years ago.
I love that movie.
It is extremely well shot. The story is fantastic. It's a biopic where I can't imagine that. We'll just say that the villain or the worst person in the whole movie is Robbie Williams. He is like the focal point. He is, we'll say, the protagonist and antagonist. Everything that happens to him, he does himself, and I think he'll fully admit to that. And his downward spiral is totally self-caused, and that. For the most part, everyone else in the film comes across looking fantastic, maybe except for one character. But other than that, a lot of times the biopics, you would see people come out and saying, well, that really wasn't like me, and they're upset of how they're portrayed. I can't imagine anyone really being upset about how they were portrayed in this film, because I think they treated everyone with a kind light. And if anything, everything was focused on Robbie Williams as far as, his downfall and his foibles, using that word again, and that, and also his eventual success. There was some scenes that were some large group scenes that, every once in a while you go onto YouTube videos and it seems like you're watching them over and over again because it's like a cool scene from a movie. There is a dance number from Better Man that is like a big group dance number that takes place in a famous street in London that I've seen many times on YouTube. And if you watch that scene, it's like a 5-minute scene of basically it's just a large group dance and singing number. You get a good idea for the film. It's not all singing and dancing. There's a good deal of that. But it's a very well-made story. And it's told very well. And by the end, you're like, why am I choking up for the third time in this movie over a CGI chimp? But it plays well. And it's one that I think will probably find a second life once it hits streaming, because in the theaters, it really, really tanked. And I think that once it comes around to streaming, it will find it'll have a second life, because it just didn't tell the story of someone that was an interesting person to tell a story about. It was just a good movie. And I'd really look forward to more people seeing it.
I think you're probably right. That seems like the type of movie that might find a second wind later. And I think that it's interesting. You saying what you just said about how it's not about the biopic nature. It's just a good movie, because I do think that a lot of biopics kind of get, a little bit of a free points because they are kind of boosted and elevated by the fact that they're about Johnny Cash or Ray Charles. And this one, if it is able to excel on its own merits and not because it's, oh my God, Robbie Williams, who I've never heard of, then I think that is actually a really, really cool feather to put in its cap. So I'm in its corner already. I don't know. I kind of want it to succeed just because of what you just said. I think that would be a heck of an achievement for it to be just a great movie, not because of who it's about, but what it is.
Yeah, I went into it. I mean, I had heard of his name. So the facts I knew about it was I knew he used to be in a boy band. He's not in a boy band now, and he's like a pop singer. Those were the only facts that I knew about him, and that was probably just from seeing, clips of him on the Graham Norton show on BBC or whatever or something. So I just have a kind of cursory knowledge of him that, oh yeah, he's a much bigger celebrity over in the UK, but not over here in the US as much. And I'm sure that we have celebrities over here in the US that other people in the UK don't care about. I'm sure there's tons of those as well. But
almost certainly.
When it comes to streaming, which I'm sure it will come to streaming sometime soon, I highly recommend checking it out, because it's one of those trailers that is, when you watch the trailer, you're like, I don't know if I'm committing to an evening of going out and seeing that, but fantastic reviews and very much well worth it. And even though you're watching, we'll just say, the downfall of someone, I think that the end is well worth it, and it pays off in the end.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen a musician's biopic where that sort of, rise and fall didn't occur. I think it's just kind of like the natural lifespan of a successful musical artist.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's kind of par for the course.
Yeah, I will say that the very end, I'm not going to discuss the very end, but just say that was probably the one thing that most people had problems with, is that he just kind of reconnects with a member of his family, and that other people felt like maybe that wasn't necessary. But then again, when you're talking about a biopic, maybe that's what happened in real life. And who are you going to say maybe that happened in real life, and and it didn't make for the best ending as far as the story goes, as far as being super satisfying. But hey, if that's what happened, I'd rather represent what really happened as opposed to just some like Hollywood ending.
Yeah, absolutely. It adds to the realism, and it seemed like he was definitely involved in the production, so you would think that's similar to what happened. So yeah, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt.
Sure.
But
so those,
so
those were my food films. So I tell you what, why don't you give just a little bit of a sneak preview about the types of films that we're going to see on my channel and see you cover?
Yeah, if you hop over to Figboot on Pens on the YouTubes, you will get to listen to me yammer about my 5. I've got a Disney film on there. I've got another animated film that is you might think is aimed towards kids, but I'm going to convince you that it's not. And then a couple little nuggets from the late 90s, early 2000s in the action genre, but also I've got good reason to believe that they're more than that. And then I'm also going to convince you to watch Cowboys and Aliens. That's it. The end. If you want to be convinced, go be convinced. Even if you don't want to be convinced, I don't care because I'm going to do it anyway. So go watch it. But that is it. Between this video here on my channel about David's 5 and then the video about my 5 over on David's channel, you've got 10 movies that I'm sure one of them might surprise you, at least, So check out the one over on David's channel, please. He's got a lot of good stuff too. If you happen to be into pens as well, he's got a lot of good stuff over there. My channel is of nothing importance, but who knows what'll pop up here. I look forward to having more friends that I have met within the writing industry, like David here, on my channel to discuss non-pen related things. And I'm thrilled to have had David here to do the inaugural version of that. So thank you so much for your time, David, Mr. Figboot, buddy, Chief, Pal, Slick, whatever, Dr. Green. That concludes our time together. David, give me very quick, if you don't mind me putting you on a spot, because I just kind of threw this in at the end of the other video. Is there a TV series that you think more people should see? It's just maybe like a little teaser. Maybe we'll get together and chat more about this later. But what pops into the old brain when you think of a TV show that you just love that unfortunately most folks do not have on their radar?
There was a movie that I very much enjoyed that was called What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh, yeah.
And that they turned that into a TV show. And that the show has already happened, and I watched the first 2 seasons, and it was a show that even though I very much enjoyed, it just fell off my radar for a while, and now I am catching up. The series has been done. I almost kind of like watching series after they've been done, so I know that how much I'm in for, and that
Me too.
I'm right at the end of season 5 and going into season 6, and very much enjoying it. In essence, it is a show about imagine the old MTV show Real Life or Real World, but a house full of vampires. That's what it is.
I'm into it. I've seen so many clips that have made me laugh, and I'm like, why don't I watch this show? And I know that I've spoken to folks who have very similar taste to me, and they say, yes, this is an excellent show. You should watch it. And I just haven't, and I feel so dumb. But yes, I think that's a great one. I think that definitely is an under the radar show, but also well regarded and well loved. So yeah, I will put that on my radar.
I do have
reconvene in another day to talk more about this in depth.
I have a T-shirt from the movie. This is from a quote from the movie, but the vampires were out and about, and they ran into the werewolves, the group of werewolves, one night, and of course they don't get along. And one of the werewolves said something rather derogatory towards the vampires, and the werewolf leader's like, "Hey, stop it! We're not swearwolves. We're werewolves." And so I have a "We're not swearwolves, we're werewolves" T-shirt because that was one of the better quotes from the movie. But yes, the movie very much worth watching. It is I'm going to butcher his name. Maybe the Takiti Wakit. I'm forgetting. Oh, you pronounce his name.
Taika Waititi.
Yes, you did a better job than I did. He was involved in the movie as one of the actors. I think he's one of the producers on the TV show. But the TV show is very much worthwhile watching, and I'm enjoying it more now that I can see they have more of a budget and they can like spend a little bit more. You kind of see as the show progresses, and I'm very much enjoying it. And I'm going to not like it when in about 10 episodes it's over with, because I'm really enjoying it right now. But that is my series to look at right now.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for that teaser. Thank you for your list. And thank you all for watching and taking some of your time out of your day to spend it with me and David here. I hope you have a fantastic rest of the day. Keep being you. And one of us or both of us will see you again soon.
Later.
Bye.